Hello, innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers. Welcome to another episode of Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. And today I'm interviewing Richard and Johanna from Degen, where they are building innovation at the frontier of AI and Web3. So let's get into this conversation on what they're building, what problems they are solving, what challenges they're facing, and how they see this whole space of Web3 and AI changing over time. As always, nothing that we talk about in this conversation should be taken as investment advice. And as always, please leave a like and subscribe and share it on your social media. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. So Richard, Joanna, it's great to have you on the show. So looking forward to this conversation, especially I believe what you guys are building is really cool. But to get started, can we get started with how did you guys get into all things Web3 and AI and decentralization? Joanna, can we start with you and your
Absolutely.
journey?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Really appreciate being here. The journey was quite interesting. I feel like it's been an intersection of everything on the creative aspect to trading to obviously the more structural enterprise side. Personally, with Web3, it started off with my love for trading. And I ended up just obsessing over charts and finding some really great projects. Obviously, I got in, I think, late 2016, early 2017. So as you remember, the markets were
Yes.
just wonderful. It was Christmas every day. To be perfectly honest, I fell in love with that side, but then realized that the more I explored in blockchain as an actual infrastructure, I saw the potential, the growth potential of all of these different applications that could potentially be built in the next few years. I've always been fascinated between blockchain and AI. And I've always wanted to find a way that we could mesh the two. And thankfully, fast forward, we have Degen, and yeah, here we are.
Fantastic. And what about you, Richard?
Yeah, wildly different from Joe, actually. A lot of my career has been in AI startups and companies. So I really came from that side. And then actually, when I started working with Joe, started to see a lot more of the Web3 side, and crypto really interested me at financial inclusion, and then started to explore a lot more of the technology like blockchain, etc., as well. And that really was interesting when combined with the previous AI experience, which was across both hardware, software, and processes. That combination then was just like, okay, we can do so much here. There's so much opportunity, and why has nobody thought of this already? And then we got the perfect opportunity to combine both of our areas of knowledge with Degen and really apply it to something really quite special.
Yeah. And Joanna, can you please share a bit about what problems are you solving with Degen?
Yeah, absolutely. So at its core, Degen is a decentralized data infrastructure delivering frontier data. But
Yeah.
what that means is it's an engine that trains, audits, and improves systems across voice, image, text, and we've basically built a way for people around the world to contribute to the future of AI and actually get paid for it. So we turn human input into ethical, high quality training data that's not scraped or even stolen, or in a lot of cases, unverifiable. So
Yeah.
every contributor is compensated directly in stable coins, and every data point is traceable back to the source.
So many questions around that.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you. I have a question for
Sure.
Richard. You were earlier mentioning on you are seeing gaps in this space and that there's so much opportunity and gaps. Can you share which gaps have you found or what inspired you to continue down this journey of building Degen?
Yeah, sure. There are an awful lot of them with the problem we're trying to solve. Number one was that to create data for AI training was criminally almost expensive. It's something that really kicked off Joe's and my idea to start Degen, seeing that the process was really expensive for the
Mhm.
company we met at. It took so long for you to get the data set that you wanted. And then you can see in the news stories already a lot about the legal side that, stolen or scraped data, plus also synthetic data, which is one of the more recent solutions, isn't necessarily as performant. So then, okay, the opportunity to combine some Web2 practices with Web3 technology to to build on blockchain to ensure that we've got that traceability of data, but also use our community of contributors to help us annotate data at scale. They get paid, which the passion project for me on trying to bank the unbanked, using crypto, using stable coins to really push that forward. Yeah, it was a great opportunity to combine a massive problem in AI with new technology and with blockchain and Web3.
Absolutely. I have interviewed quite a few people in this space who are building around AI or data for AI. I feel like AI has few different pillars that it stands on. One is compute, one is like energy for that compute, and then the third one is data for whether it's user generated or scraped or however it is, wherever it is. So it stands on these three, and then there are different companies trying to decentralize this by incentivizing either people or companies to provide these resources. So that's where I see the major cross section of Web3 and AI. And you guys are on the data side. And even on data side, I have interviewed quite a few. Most of the times when startups go in this direction, they incentivize the user with their own token, which I always felt like that is not the way to go, because token prices do go up and down, as we all know in our industry, just like currency or just like stocks or anything, which is not a problem in itself. But it is a problem because it that means that the motivation of the people providing that data will also go up and down along with the tokens. I always thought that stablecoin is a much more elegant solution for that. And you guys are doing that from day one, it seems. How did you guys, what made you guys choose stablecoins instead of doing your own token and trying to show some utility for it and all that?
I feel, to be honest, DGen exists today to answer some of the most important questions in the next decade. So obviously, there's been a fair share of companies already trying to solve banking the unbanked, where basically I feel like that whole infrastructure on its own that provides people an asset that they can actually interchange and be a part of, even if they don't have a bank account. And when it comes down to it, I feel like if we basically find a method that people can rely on, where again, it's more stable, they don't have to worry about volatility, they don't have to worry about inconsistency. I feel like stable coins were definitely a route that interested us,
Yes.
especially when it comes to Tether. We respected the vision that they had in terms of growth overall and targeting different countries and areas that this problem exists today. And when it comes down to it, I think on top of that, we have to really ask ourselves other questions, like when capital no longer needs labor, how does labor gain capital? All of these people in emerging markets, for example, we had this really big decision that we had to make at Data Guardians Network. And it was whether to get lost in the noise, compete with these giants in Silicon Valley, where, they have these incredibly smart, driven people that just have access quickly to these incredible resources. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we realize the fact that there is this huge untapped pool that exists today in different emerging markets. And especially when it comes down to younger generations, the way that we teach, engage, and empower them really determines systems that rely on tomorrow. So when you build with future generations in mind, you really start to think beyond the quarter. And with that being said, we never closed the door to actually not launching our own token. We ended up doing that, but in a very stealth mode. We basically wanted to create a community asset rather than something that was just going to pump and dump. I feel like community is literally the backbone of our business. And in terms of everything we're building future forward, it really relies on people who want to be there. Hence why we've taken our time in terms of even spreading the message of the coin alone. And people have really taken ownership, which has been extraordinary just to watch that community thrive and grow, and everyone's starting to support each other by the day. So that was really exciting on that end. But again, when it comes down to it, for a sustainable system to exist in future, we really wanted to make sure that people had something very consistent that they can rely on.
And I also think there's one extra element as well, which was really critical, where we're trying to bring so many new people into the industry. And number one, getting contributors from all over the world to annotate data brings a real diversity in the data, which is really important for AI to be trained properly, to get really great outputs. And what better way to make sure that there wasn't too big a barrier than using a stablecoin that is tied to the US dollar? It's something recognizable all over the world. That reduces the hurdle for someone coming in and being told, oh, you can get paid. It's tied to the US dollar. It's basically just a digital dollar versus us trying to build the Degen brand and then a token as well to gain the same trust as something like the US dollar. That's a real difficult challenge. Whereas this way, we really simplify that process and people get it straight away, which I think so far has backed our decision, which is great. But it was a really critical talking point. We spent a lot of time working out how we should do this.
Yeah. I feel stablecoins are one thing in our industry that has got a real good product market fit. I've been using it for multiple years and paying my team around the world for last 4 years. And it's just one of those things that just works. And that's what everyone always says, that if you want people to start using crypto, start paying them in crypto. So then they have to go and use it. And that's what has happened in a lot of jurisdictions around the world. There's always been a huge need for USD or some currencies around the world, especially places where you have hyperinflation or instability. But then it has been so challenging for someone to get access to. I have lots of thoughts on banking. I feel like you guys are on the right track with that. Now, coming back to Degen, who are your key customers? You are gathering all this data using people. That's the first part of the question. And are they corporates? Are they enterprise, government?
Rich, I'll let you take
I
that
mean,
one. So
we've basically got interest across the board. At the moment, it's more on the enterprise side or companies that have massive enterprise contracts and government contracts already. So, the data that we can produce, our goal and our sort of how we provide data to people is 98% accuracy and above. So we've set a real high bar for the quality that we produce. And that's exactly what these companies want, alongside the defensibility and the understanding of how the data flow works from person annotating through to them using it in their AI model. So that's been, where we've seen our initial burst of interest, but we see this broadening out over the next few months as we scale massively, because thanks to the large scale of contributors that we can bring onto the platform, we can offer high quality AI training data, number one, in a very customizable way. Okay, you need this data set for this model. We can work with you to ensure that's created, as well as people can use our platform to do that themselves. And because of the number of contributors to this and the way that we control the quality, people can get this back really fast. So for enterprises, that's wonderful because time to model activation is way faster. That saves them money, like you were saying earlier.
Yes.
You've got the training costs, the power for your GPUs, etc., GPU time. Suddenly that's all optimized as well because of high quality training data.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And most people don't realize how much money is going into building data centers and electricity and generating output. In the last 12 months in US or in 2024, around $100 billion spent by just like seven or the top few companies, just data center cost. And this year it's supposed to exceed in 2025. We are just halfway through the year, but it's supposed to exceed that. And that's just in US alone. And data centers are being all around the world. It's like trillions of dollars are being spent at the moment. My next question is a bit more on the technical side, and that is that how you said about synthetic data, that yes, it's that is a huge problem because 75% of all new data generated that is public on internet is now synthetic, is generated by some form of AI or LLMs or a combination of LLMs and human. How do you know that the data is not synthetic data?
yeah, so we basically have built out a system that kind of answers the question, like, how do we build systems that remember the human being at every data point? So realistically, we have a group of verified, vetted global contributors who we basically get involved. And what we want to do is really champion real voices, real faces, and real emotions. When it comes down to synthetic data as a whole, I feel the internet is just exhausted. Like all of that internet data, it's very surface level. I think it really helps us with the day to day, but gigantic enterprises who actually are looking ahead and who want to build something that lasts and is very sustainable and can perform on an even smarter and more intelligent output, they really require more frontier systems that show people and draw back from people's personal memories and experiences. Because when it comes down to it, what you said about the data centers, it
Mm.
has huge implications down the line.
Yeah.
And even looking back at the fact that when people are using different LLM models today, for example, if they're not happy with the answer and the output that they're getting, they're going to consistently try to get a new answer. But if it's not being fed a new data set, you're going to keep getting the same output. And with that being said, it's going to have a chain reaction for everything else. When these servers heat up, it's very
Yes.
cost. And you have to keep in mind as well, you typically have to use non-contaminated fresh water because anything else would simply corrode those systems. So all of these things, if we think from the foundation, I think that definitely is going to play a huge role in the future.
Also, when you've got more high risk models, so for example, with driverless cars, suddenly you've got to have a depth within that data set. It can't be a super light synthetic data set because the issues, if the model goes wrong, are really critical. And also, this isn't the humanitarian point, but very newsworthy, which is horrible for the enterprise as they're approaching this problem. What we've done with our platform is gamified it for the contributor. Then there's point systems involved, is quite fun, but also there's a level of, okay, what's the genuine data that's needed for this, let's say the self-driving car. We need this road sign in this country. We can set that mission so then they go out and they're hunting this down and translating it or annotating that image in real time. And then that goes back to the self-driving car manufacturer. Suddenly they've got this broad, deep data set of localized knowledge. And that's invaluable compared to, okay, we've downloaded Google Maps and thrown it in, or some lighter synthetic approach. Okay, this is what a normal sign looks like. Give us the variants. There's a wild difference that's possible, which is really important. Plus, additionally, you've got enterprises, massive conglomerates already, like JP Morgan, who have, I think it was 150 petabytes of data that they've just got that they're not really using. And to put it into context for everyone, ChatGPT was trained on around 1 petabyte of data.
We can train on what's available online, and most of the data is in the servers of other institutions, government organizations, all sorts of private companies, hospitals, healthcare data. So a lot of the data is not available publicly to be scraped. So that's where it makes sense that you incentivize those players and they can provide. But if you ask people to provide XYZ data, they're going to go and put it in LLM and get you the first answer, because that's what students do, that's what teachers do, that's what employees do, that's what everyone does in the world at the moment. And so we have a huge problem. I have friends who are teachers in school, they get GPT to create all their questionnaire assignments, and they also know that the students are putting the same questions in ChatGPT, and so it's pretty much ChatGPT teaching ChatGPT and reading ChatGPT's answer. Or it could be any LLM, but that's what's going on all around the world. It's not unique to any one particular place. And so if you ask people, they are just going to go and put it in LLM. If you want this image, they'll go and create that in LLM. And it is still a big challenge if you ask and reward people, because people are going to choose the shortest route possible to make the maximum amount of money possible, which is just human nature.
With that example, what we challenge people to do is they take the image within the app. So, it connects to the camera, they take that image so we can know that it's a real live image rather than they've uploaded a gen image. But also for the example with JP Morgan, well, they can give us that data set and say, we want this annotated or this focus. And we can take that. And because of the blockchain element, we can trace exactly where that data travels. So suddenly they've got, essentially a closed annotation loop where they can see exactly where this has gone. They can
Yes.
keep that location based if they want. We've got to just keep it with US annotators. We can do that for them. So that becomes this great way of businesses to actually monetize and utilize this gold mine that they are sitting on that they thought they wouldn't be able to do anything with, because suddenly they've got that defensibility, that capability to use this in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'll continue with you, Richard. The question to you is, what do you feel like would be the greatest risk to Degen becoming super successful?
That's a really tough one. I think, to be honest, we've got to scale in the right way. We've got to build everything out as well as possible. And we've got some great help. We've got some brilliant people already backing us, helping us build the road ahead. So really, it's challenging ourselves to hit those next milestones each time, committing to them, making sure we hit them, and just keeping on broadening what we can do and hopping into the different areas. For example, medical imagery, medical data is notoriously, there's a high barrier to entry. Ensuring as a startup and when you're scaling really fast, proving what you can do in these different industries is really crucial. So I think that getting those proof points, we've already got a lot in multiple industries, which is brilliant, but ensuring that we keep on doing that really fast so then we can scale into these different industries before you get pigeonholed, or as we move, that's going to be really important for us.
Fantastic. And this is a bit more on the operational side of question for Johanna, and that is, a lot of startups have North Star. So if it's a staking startup, they just track TVL. If it's like a exchange, they track volume or they track number of active users. What's your North Star? What do you mostly track?
So to be honest, we have big, fun, ambitious goals. One of them being to create specifically one of the largest voice and emotive data sets in the world by 2027. And with that being said, it is definitely going to take community to be a huge part of. We have to focus on the fact that in order for us to grow, we're really going to need the right minds and resources to grow the overall learning systems that we bring people onto and allow them to actually learn within our platform. I think having these data sets and having this opportunity where enterprises can come in and have other people learn their data, it also gives them the opportunity to teach them. If you look at incredible infrastructures and big goals like Vision 2030 from Saudi, they really want to focus on investing in the future workforce of tomorrow. And that means giving them better systems, better tools, and being able to guide them so they actually excel in the future. Obviously, that helps to contribute the overall global economy. And realistically, when it comes down to it, it really helps us build internally. As you mentioned, there's so many of these 6 cycles that people are just using LLMs to speak to LLMs. LLMs are already interacting. Most people just say that in the future, it's going to be agent to agent, but that's already happening. And how do we basically get people to grow while using these incredible tools? I believe that AI is just a huge accelerator, and it really empowers people to take risks without having to worry about too many implications. They can feel really empowered because they have so much information just in their pockets. But to be able to train people to think critically and solve problems along the way, I think that's a huge component of what we want to build. And on the flip side, we really want to focus on bringing people in for representation purposes, because as you
Yeah.
mentioned, a lot of these models only are only based on what they know. So
Yes.
if one side of a country, or you have these remote islands that aren't necessarily represented within the internet, these data sets are going to be a lot more biased. They're not going to accurately show, even when it comes down to languages. Like someone might say, oh, I want to translate this to Spanish, and they don't dive a little deeper and realize there's so
Yes.
many different dialects within that. So to be able to represent all of these different modalities and all of these different individuals, I think that's something that we really want to work towards.
Yeah. So what one key metrics that you track every day, every week, every month?
Number of contributors that we've got annotating data, for me, that's one that I always look at. And by the end of the year, if we've got over 1 million people annotating,
Yeah.
I will be delighted. I will be so happy because that makes such a big difference for us across so many parts of our business, but also really means that over 1 million active people on our platform, all earning USDT
Yeah.
from across the world as well. I really don't want that to be localized in one place. I think the perfect story at Christmas, we've really changed a lot of people's lives by building Degen. And also on the benefit is that side of the business would be going well because we can deliver really fast. We can build all of that out, and that's contributing to benefiting those individuals. I think that's one of the incredible metrics that I always really want to see increasing.
As well in the community, that helps us develop quicker speed when it comes to producing outputs for the actual enterprises as well.
Yes.
We definitely want to make sure that our overall speed is actually improving over time as we go along.
On our Telegram group, we've got so many ideas coming back to us from the community, which is incredible. And just when we mention things in the chat, the amount of positive reaction or optimizations that people throw out on top or experience from the platform is incredible. As we multiply the number of people in there and build out location areas as well, that just increases as well. So there's so many layers to the benefit that brings.
What's one thing in Degen that would be really hard for any of your competitors to copy, or they just simply cannot copy?
I think our network is definitely one of them. We're fortunate enough to already have a set infrastructure, how we're getting enterprises and that sort of pipeline. But on top of that, our community, of course, always have to shout out the community. But yeah, realistically, when Richard and I had developed Degen, it all traces back to the original company that we were working with. We exceeded expectations from our beta and managed to even close a 5 million pre-seed round recently. And that was mainly based from the company that really believed in our vision. We were able to solve problems for them while they obviously catered to bigger enterprises. With their enterprise clients, they were searching for solutions that they didn't have to depend on these LLMs, which might jeopardize their privacy or might jeopardize their good name. So when it came down to it, Richard and I were able to sit down and realize, okay, this is something that we can build. And on top of that, add this beautiful blockchain infrastructure where we can see that transparency component and tie it all together. So at the end of the day, these companies can actually track and trace where everything's coming from.
I think that's a really good point on that.
Yes.
It's been how we've built Degen, but how we've combined all of that. So the full track of the community being paid USDT as building that community, and all the way back to, okay, this is actually how the data that is created, we store and tokenize on the chain. I think building that whole connectedness, I would almost say, is actually going to be quite tricky for other people to replicate in a cost efficient way. Also, the gamification element, it does take time to do. You've got to be creative with it. I think if someone just directly copies how we've done it, you look at it and go, basically just stolen someone else's idea. People tend to be a bit more careful with products that just directly copy.
I'll stay with you on Richard on this. What's one prediction about AI and data that you think that you have, like where AI and data will be in 5 years, that you think that everyone will laugh about if you share your prediction on that?
I think that currently companies are too scared of general Web3 technology. So your big enterprise, there's an element of companies picking up blockchain at the moment, but I don't think the integration of both Web2 and Web3 technology sets has really hit any sort of stride. It's something that we've really tried to make sure that we can hit. But I think the transfer to people utilizing all of the technology that's being developed and is available to them, that will massively outstrip the predictions of where the AI and blockchain markets especially are going to be in terms of valuation. I think nowadays, when we've already been told that someone can probably build $1 billion business on their own using AI when this is integrated in an easy way with blockchain, with crypto, with the opportunity, the capital available, I think the ceiling is pretty much going to be non-existent.
Absolutely. I 100% believe in that. And Joanna, for you, is what do you feel like is the most overhyped trend in Web3 at the moment?
Oh my goodness. Where to begin, Sam? To be honest, I don't know if it's overhyped because clearly people are making money, but definitely since our name is Degen, I have to address all my Degens and point to the meme coins because I find it so funny now. Before you might be catfish with someone posing as either a female, like, or someone who's a lot older. And realistically, now with all of these integrated streaming platforms where you can actually see the dev behind the screen, you can genuinely verify that, oh my gosh, this is literally a 12 to 14-year-old who's making this much, who's literally rug pulling right in front of you. And I genuinely think that a lot of people are seeing this huge influx in money, and to be able to really dive deep, it's like the funny little joke that a lot of influencers go through where like a lot of people don't realize that they're stylists in the back end and they're rocking all of this expensive jewelry, all of these luxury products, but in the back end, like they return it. And that being said, especially with the technology, you have to understand that AI is a wonderful tool for all things that can also lead to the deceptive side, where of course there is everything from dev wallets that you can dive into. And you have all of these 14, 16-year-old influencers and KOLs who very well might have their own communities and have made a fair amount of money. But then you have obviously the flip side where people are just looking to make a quick buck. And then they'll put that image and message out there saying, look, I just made 100K, and they have nothing to back it. Definitely meme coin.
And it's like meme coins is part of, I call it, the gamble-fi
Yes.
industry, because
Yeah.
most people, I would assume, know that it's not really an investment or anything. They're hoping that they won't be
Yeah.
the exit liquidity and they will use someone else as an exit liquidity. Everyone is hoping that they are just a bit higher in the pyramid somewhere and not lower down, who would end up getting rug pulled. Richard, what do you think is the most overhyped thing in AI at the moment?
I agree with Joe on this, but equally, I probably see it in a slightly different light because I'm later into Web3 than her. I see it as this is the early stage building with the technology. So you've got loads of people becoming completely native, becoming completely used to launching a token, dealing with the social side, the market dynamics, the trading side, all of the stuff that goes into that. And it's those early stages where you've got the initial people messing around with the technology. The obvious issue is that there's the financial implication aspect of it. And like you say, it's basically gambling at the moment. But what can be built on it at the next stage, I think is going to be super interesting because people will come with so many different ideas of how to improve it, how to utilize it in a better way, or how to focus and apply it. And I think that's something that's coming around again with NFTs. You had that initial boom, pretty much a bust, and then people are actually working out, oh, there's a way to utilize this that hadn't been found yet. The other thing I think that will come around though is quantum computing, that side of things, how that changes so much of the industry and protecting against
That's
that.
going to be a
It's
reset.
something we've already been looking into because we're dealing with data. It's something that we've already been looking into. And I think people won't look into it early enough. It's going to be something that's too difficult to catch up. I think we'll see a lot of businesses really struggle from the outset when that becomes commonplace.
And the concept of quantum computing is so challenging to grasp for someone who has built everything in their life on Web 2 or Web 1 tech. So the from Web 3 to quantum or AI to quantum computing, it is fundamentally different on how we do things that I have absolutely no words to even describe how different it's going to be, because all LLMs work on statistical probability type model on what word will be next, whereas quantum is knowing every alternative, everything at once, which is so fundamentally different.
Yeah, just in terms of AI, I feel like there's still this overall illusion that it's magic. Realistically, I think it comes down to foundations, like whether it's on the back end of building the model side. I think even from a consumer standpoint, AI is only going to work as good for you as the input that you put in. So the input's really going to impact the output. So I have so many people who, again, I try to sit down with them because obviously I'm so excited about everything that's going on. And then I automatically get the lecture saying, I already know how to use companies like ChatGPT. And then I sat back and I'm like, okay, do your thing. And then you find out that it's the same situation as when people say, I know how to use the internet. There is this big gap of knowledge because when someone from one industry sees the internet, they might just see it as a place where they can check emails, use it as entertainment, where another person sees, okay, this is my opportunity to tap into the entire world from my bedroom. I don't have to leave to engage with billions of people. I can literally just do it from here. So I think there's obviously that huge gap that still needs to be covered because truly a lot of the models that are at least available to the public today aren't as intuitive yet.
Absolutely. You can probably ask them follow-up questions. So you also train your own models. You have
Yeah.
your own data sets. Yeah, but yeah, partial knowledge can be a bit dangerous. And people have started to have seen the difference, have started to take word of an LLM as the truth, which is not in many cases. Because if you have a unique challenge that no one has come up with before, like we had yesterday, and this is on the programming side, coding side, and you are using some APIs, and LLM does not know how things work inside that external company that we are using data from or we are using code API from, but it is very confident to make up an answer that sounds really plausible.
Getting
That, oh,
really
you are
good.
using this UTF-8 encoding and you need to use this type of encoding. It just made everything up, but the confidence, if only I had the level of confidence that an LLM has in giving an answer,
Right.
then yeah, I would be much further in my
It's
life. Most people still don't realize that it is still a statistical model and the data it doesn't have, it has a likelihood of agreeing with you. This is another hack that I learned the other day. It is like any question you ask, and then ask it that why is this wrong? Because LLMs have a propensity to agree with you. Oh, this is a fantastic question, blah, blah, blah. Always ask it in a negative way that why is this wrong?
Grok, I feel like, has the more spicy answers. I saw a funny Tesla video the other day of someone using Grok on the road, and truly it comes back with very Elon-like answers, which is very entertaining. It's definitely more interesting than the straightforward agreeing answers that you might get from other LLMs.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to Richard, this is wrapping things up. If you had one ask related to degen, what would it be? Are you looking at doing a seed round or a series A next, or are you looking at hiring a key role next? Whatever it is, feel free to share. And then, John, after Richard, you can go on that as well.
We're really lucky in that we've just closed our 5 million pre-seed. On that side, we've got a really great runway. I think the next thing for me is really us growing. We've got this really small, but really scrappy, really talented team. And we've built so much so fast. It's been incredible the pace that they've managed to create everything at. The next part, I think, is we've got that mix of hiring people in the team that really add to what we've really gel with everybody, are AI native as well, can take us to the next level and challenge what we've already got and what we're already doing to continue to improve it, but also just getting as many people on the platform as possible. I really want to see as many people onto it. I think there's a big marketing effort with that, but also us going around and speaking to people, and conferences will be a big thing. Learning how we can take degen into all of these different industries. I think that's going to be incredible over the next few months.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of partners, we definitely want to find people who truly align with the vision, who want to actually take their businesses and enterprises to the next level and not just use the basic scrape data that is available today. If they're really looking to improve their systems, we definitely want to contribute to that overall vision and movement. Also, going back to what Richard had said about acquiring the talent, I think we definitely want to work with a lot of great minds, people who can give very in-depth industry insights when it comes down to us hiring, I want a nice diversity of people who are knowledgeable within these industries like AI, Web3. However, we also want to bring in people who have these different perspectives because I feel like those play as our competitive edge when it comes down to things. As you mentioned, there's going to be people that are out there who might see this as an interesting, say, hey, I might want to try to build this. But it's those people who really make the company, who allow us to collaborate in a really unique way. And obviously, that might mean bringing in their network or past experiences. But yeah, very looking forward to, especially the speaking events as well.
Fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the links to DGen in the show notes and description in every platform that is going to go out over the next few weeks. So people can reach out to you so you guys can continue building. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you guys.
Thank you, Sam. We really
Thanks so
appreciate it.
much, Sam. This has been great.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching this episode of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. By now, you know the drill. Leave a comment or share this episode with a friend and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So that's why my DMs are open. Reach out to me, especially if you are a founder building a product in Web3. Then I would love to hear from you. What are your challenges? Is there anything that I can help you or my community can help you with? Thank you once again and wish you best of luck in building your startup or your project.